Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood night. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Friday, August 8th. Hopefully this is the last time we have to do a Friday night. But the LA Galaxy 4-0 winners over Santos Laguna, moving on to the quarterfinals in Leagues Cup. Lots of exciting things to talk about, including how the Galaxy were able to so easily dominate in this game, what it says maybe about the team, about the tournament. Those things are certainly pertinent to our discussion. How the Galaxy played, and we can talk so much about this game and how it was over probably before it started. But still, a must-win with multiple goals. The LA Galaxy get it done, and now they have to turn that all back around and get ready for league play, because instead of Leagues Cup, we're back to MLS play on Sunday. Seattle comes to Dignity Health Sports Park, and some replica rings will be out there as well. We'll tell you what the process is going to be for that and sort of what we can expect from that game coming up on Sunday. If you are awake right now and you went to the game last night, if you're awake right now, and you watched the game on television, congratulations, you deserve a pat on the back. You are a true LA Galaxy fan. If you didn't, I do not blame you. I have had to take 2 naps today in order to be ready for this particular show at 8:03 p.m. on a Friday. Yes, I'm getting older. At 44 is certainly starting to stretch a little bit here, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I don't know that I can do those late nights. Those are some pretty late nights on a Thursday. It's a school night. You know, I know school's out, but school's getting ready to go back in. So the late start is certainly interesting. In fact, it was the latest start ever in LA Galaxy home game history. That included the Rose Bowl as well. We can even bring up that stat. 8:56 was the kickoff time on Thursday night. Yes, just last night when the LA Galaxy hosted Santos Laguna in the third game of Phase 1 of Leagues Cup. The 8:56 kickoff time is the latest home start in LA Galaxy history, either at the Dignity Health Sports Park, StubHub Center, Home Depot Center, whatever you want to call it there, or the Rose Bowl. And the previous record for that was actually the Rose Bowl. And I forget exactly when it was. I had it written down at one point of exactly what it was, and I tweeted it out too. But it was a league game at 8:30 p.m. at the Rose Bowl, which was the previous latest game in LA Galaxy history. And not to spoil anything, but maybe just to tease a little bit, we do know when the LA Galaxy's next Leagues Cup game is, and oh, boy. I have some thoughts on the scheduling. Let's just put it that way. So August 20th, mark your calendars. Maybe take a nap that day. Might have to stay up a little bit late. But the LA Galaxy, 4-0 winners over Santos Laguna on what was a hot day, turned into a very nice evening at Dignity Health Sports Park. It was a doubleheader with Colorado and Cruz Azul playing against each other, eventually going to penalty kicks in that one. I believe Cruz Azul advanced on that one. Lots of people in that stadium at that time for that game, and some, like probably 5 or 6, even stuck around for the LA Galaxy game whenever they hosted Santos Laguna. So an interesting doubleheader night, an interesting time to be at the stadium. I had so much time at the stadium, and the start time was so late
I actually went and got Kathy's cookies, which I do maybe once a year, right? So it was Kathy's cookies time, so went down there, waited in line, got my cookies, went up and shared those around the press box for the rest of the night, and then handed those off when all was said and done. So it was good. I will say that there were some people who were going to sit there and tell you that the stadium was empty, and it was. I think the Galaxy counted around 12,000 for the second game. I nod my or I tip my hat. I nod my head. I tip my cap to anybody who was there at that game. That is unreasonable in terms of start times on a Thursday night. It's very much unreasonable, and it should be acknowledged as such. When you're asking people to stay up that late, the scheduled kickoff time was 8:45 p.m., and we knew because Cruz Azul and Colorado went to penalties that it actually kicked back a little bit later. If you were there for that game, if you hung around, if you were doing all the things that you were at the stadium, and listen, I'm sure you had a great time. You're paying for it today, though. We all know that, right? I mean, unless you're in your teens or in your 20s, you feel every minute of it being a late game. And I just don't know to what benefit it is. Certainly a doubleheader is of no benefit to the LA Galaxy, of no benefit to, Cruz Azul, Colorado having to travel over here because basically they were playing the away part of their game against Cruz Azul. Santos Laguna, I don't think was of a benefit. I just want to know who it benefits. Because it can't even benefit Leagues Cup. You can't even tell me that viewership was through the roof or anything like that. So having these late games is not a great way to highlight Leagues Cup. You already have a West Coast issue, which is that a lot of West Coast games don't get watched, especially by the establishment East Coast side of things in Major League Soccer. There's already a lack of sort of staying up late to watch MLS games on the West Coast whenever you have all the games on the East Coast on a Saturday, on a Sunday, even in your normal times. The West Coast games don't get as many eyes on them. Having said that, why does there seem to be an obsession almost with starting these games when they did? It doesn't make sense to me. If you're trying to highlight this, and listen, I think you all know I have a complex relationship with Leagues Cup, right? It's not something I necessarily love. I do understand its importance this year for the LA Galaxy. I think if we're all being honest with ourselves, we should sit there and say this shouldn't be something that is super important to the LA Galaxy, because you would hope that the league is more important. But with where they are now, currently in 30th place in MLS standings, and certainly with that game in hand, sort of dropped them back a little bit. But in that spot where they are right now, Leagues Cup is the most important tournament they're going to play. I know people will take issue with the whole, this is their best chance at a trophy. It's like their only chance. I know Campeones Cup is coming up. That's one game and you get a trophy and it doesn't come with anything. So I can't, while I appreciate the exhibition part of that match and putting, the winners from MLS Cup against the winners from, Liga MX, and how I think the game against Toluca will be really good. And by the way, Galaxy, might have a chance to play Toluca here too. To me, the tournament lacks something. Now, it did have some good discussions just talking about the tournament in general. The fact that only 4 teams from MLS and 4 teams from Liga MX make it is a better playoff scenario probably than having 18 teams from Major League Soccer make the playoffs. I do appreciate that. Maybe there's maybe for MLS playoffs we could maybe split that a little bit. Maybe 6 teams or 8 teams make it from each side. 8 even seems like 7 seems 6 seems like the right number. So you 12 total teams from MLS on the Western and Eastern Conference, but that doesn't exactly make for great brackets and all that stuff. So trying to figure out what that looks like. I do think that there is a premium put on this tournament because so few people advance in this game. So the Galaxy came into this game needing a 2-goal plus win. Now, we watched all of the different machinations that were supposed to happen in this game, right? There was, or in the games before, we had to watch Cincinnati. We had to watch New York Red Bulls. Cincinnati went into weather delay, so we were watching that a little bit. Then we watched New York Red Bulls play, and then Cincinnati came back. New York ended up losing their game, I believe, to Chivas, and Cincinnati ended up losing their game. Both teams had chances to sort of jump up if they scored a whole bunch of goals and did a whole bunch of things. Neither of those things happened, right? And so those ended up not being so basically the what happened on Wednesday night with, where Portland was sort of standing and where the LA Galaxy needed. The Galaxy knew, and we had communicated that a 2+ goal win, so 2 or more goal win, would advance the LA Galaxy in the quarterfinals. And so that's what we were looking for. So the Galaxy knew it coming into it. They knew what they had to do. They knew the number that they had to reach. We all thought that those were advantages for the LA Galaxy in terms of what they were trying to do. And so winning by 2 goals or more was really what needed to be appropriate for this. We look at starting lineups for the LA Galaxy. No surprises, not that I can find. Seeing Joseph Paintsel and Nascimento and Peck up top, that's fine. Fagundes, Surreal, Royce in the middle, yep. Royce was a little bit of a question mark about whether or not he was going to be ready to go and whether he was going to be able to play, and he was able to go and he was able to play, so that was good news for the LA Galaxy. You had Aude, Yoshida, Garces, and Cuevas starting on the right-hand side. Listen, if there is going to be a story about Leagues Cup and the 3 games that the LA Galaxy have pulled off, right? And by the way, Lasso's Optimism, $5 super chat, started off the show with it. Evening, 3 games, 3 results against Liga MX Foes. Full credit to the boys. More, please. Absolutely. Good results in all of those. But if there's going to be talk of what this tournament means, to me, this tournament means Mauricio Cuevas sort of stepping up and finding his footing in this LA Galaxy team. Now, I'm going to throughout this show, I will throw some cold water on this as well. And I think that there needs to be a tempering of expectations. But being said, Mauricio Cuevas, his right foot, his ability to get forward, his ability to cross and put balls in dangerous spots right now puts him as the most dangerous crosser the LA Galaxy have. He is the best service provider that the LA Galaxy have when he's on the field. And he showed that in this tournament. Now, are we going to talk about, Tijuana and sort of what Tijuana did or didn't do? That game was pretty lopsided for what the LA Galaxy were trying to do. Sort of what was Cruz Azul and how did that look? That was a little bit of a different game. But again, Cuevas sort of coming on later in that game in order to help find some stuff. And so, again, not asked. I think the common theme right now is that Mauricio Cuevas, absolutely the most dangerous crosser for the LA Galaxy. All right, not a joke, not anything. His speed, his decision making, his ability to cross, to find those spots where the defense can't defend, but the LA Galaxy can attack. We've seen him be able to do some amazing things. There's one thing that I still think he needs to put in his quiver, and that's to be able to play better defense. Right. And in this game, especially against Santos Laguna, he was asked to do almost no defense. The LA Galaxy were almost asked to play no defense. So that's going to be the thing that holds him back from being the stone cold locked in starter. Now, does that mean that I think he's not going to get more games and starts? I don't think that. I think he will absolutely get more games and more starts. Miki Amane has been a little bit of a mixed bag this year. Miki's a little bit better on the defensive side, but on the offensive side right now, and what they're asking Mauricio to do, Mauricio's more suited for it. You are not often asking Miki Amani to make a lot of the same runs that Mauricio Cuevas is making. And you're not asking Mauricio Cuevas to tuck inside and sort of invert sometimes in order to help protect the back line and do some different things in there. And that's something that they asked Miki Amani to do, right? So they're different players and different things. But if you're talking about the story of the 2025 Leagues Cup through phase 1, through the first 3 games, it's Mauricio Cuevas for the LA Galaxy. Eyebrows are being raised around the league about Mauricio Cuevas. The homegrown player for the LA Galaxy was a guy who at one point, I believe, departed the system and then ended up coming back. So, you're talking about a young man who's extremely humble, one of my absolute favorite people to talk to. Just such a bright young kid, really smart, soft-spoken. Certainly, he's a quiet guy. But what Mauricio Cuevas brings to this team is the energy and some of that playmaking ability that they're missing whenever Ricky Puig isn't there, right? In terms of lockdown and what you need to do, for Mauricio Cuevas to sort of be that next generation starter. I mean, people were certainly talking about him in terms of Julian Araujo. There's too many Julian nowadays, and then Julian Araujo. Julian Araujo, certainly, I think you could see him on a similar track. Here's the other part about this too, and boy, did I make some people mad. It was really fun. I really enjoyed this part. Actually, I wasn't trolling. This is serious, and I'm going to tell you why I'm serious. I tweeted out. I said Cuevas is really saying you can't put me back on that bench, right? He's telling Greg Vanney, you can't put me back on that bench. I'm too valuable to being out there on the field. You need me. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. That's Mauricio Cuevas talking about the position that he's in. And then I added to it, said, might also be a good piece for that the Galaxy could move. People are watching. The league is watching. And people lost it whenever I said, well, maybe the Galaxy could trade Mauricio Cuevas. Maybe they could do that somewhere inside the league. Maybe that could get them some money in order to free up some other things. People lose it because, and this is a common fault whenever we're talking about creating or generating revenue inside of the league or, even outside of the league, is people only want to get rid of the people they don't want, right? I already saw it. Mickey Imani's in the chat room right now. People are like, oh, well, you got to get rid of Mickey Imani. That's what you need to do. Just keep Mauricio Cuevas and the whole deal. Listen, there's some real advantages to keeping Mauricio Cuevas, mostly because he's on a homegrown contract. So, not hitting the senior team roster with any of that. And so that's a value to the LA Galaxy, but it could be a value to somebody else. And it could be a value worth a lot of money to somebody else, right? So I'm not suggesting that it happens. I'm just saying that whenever you have an up-and-comer like this, whenever you have somebody who's catching attention, whenever you have the LA Galaxy who might be cash-strapped and might be looking for ways to generate some of that revenue, then you're looking to part with pieces that maybe you don't want to part with, but ultimately have value. You trade the pieces that have value, right? Why did Mark Delgado go? One was probably contract reasons. Two is that there was some value there. Was there a lot of value? No, not really. It was more getting the value off the contract. But, it was something that trying to get the contract off the books, but there was something that somebody wanted, and therefore it was of value to them. All right. Gaston Brugman's another example. Dejan Joveljic, right? There was something of value. Would you have loved to keep Dejan Joveljic? Yeah, of course. And in a perfect world and not in Major League Soccer, you would have. But there's something of value. So Mauricio Cuevas, guaranteed, Will Kuntz took at least one or two calls about people asking him about Mauricio Cuevas. Not saying that we'll entertain that idea. I haven't talked to him about it. But with how he was playing, he is raising some eyebrows in Major League Soccer right now, and that could be to the LA Galaxy's advantage. It could be to the LA Galaxy's advantage to hold, and maybe you can work something where you have to find stuff that you can move offside or you have mutual terminations of contracts. That's how you get rid of pieces you don't want. By the way, you terminate a contract, you buy out a contract, those types of things. All right, so again, keep that in mind. I mean, it's one of the reasons that Gabriel Peck's name keeps coming around is because there's real interest and real value for him. And so eventually the Galaxy have to figure out, are they going to keep Gabriel Peck? Are they going to move him? Where are they going to move him? How much they want? All those sort of things can sort of come in. Different situation than sort of Mauricio Cuevas, who's, just hitting the ground running. And so now as a Galaxy fan, and I get it, you're sort of like, oh man, this is the guy. This is the guy we've been waiting for, and the Galaxy have done, I think, a decent job at developing sort of these defensive, offensive players, right? These defenders that are able to get into attacking areas, and there is value around the world for that. So maybe you develop more, and that's certainly a fair thing to say. Again, maybe you develop Mauricio Cuevas more. Maybe he's worth more money next year. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else. Maybe this is a Europe job. Maybe the Galaxy get paid, a whole bunch of money. This is a guy who at one time I think went over to play overseas and came back. But Mauricio Cuevas is coming into his own. We'll see what that means for games like Seattle. And by the way, we'll talk about Seattle and just sort of the walking dead that will be, both from the Seattle perspective and from the LA Galaxy perspective, and see like how much gas is still in the tank for these guys after sort of playing Leagues Cup and then having to cram this game in over the weekend too. Both teams, by the way, advancing to the quarterfinals. But looking at Mauricio Cuevas and what he was able to do in this game was great. Joseph Paintsel gets the goal in the first minute. I mean, Cinderella start. This is exactly the way that you want everything to go. Joseph Paintsel probably could have had 7 more goals on the night. I think that's a fair criticism. I will also say that the Galaxy put exactly as much effort as they needed to in this game, and not an ounce more. Being able to sub off in the second half, personally, because it was Santos went down to 9 men. But we'll talk about that in a second, because that was a little confusing. But, Santos going down to 9 men, there's no reason that the LA Galaxy needed to work any harder than they did. And by the way, the 2 goals was great. The 3 goals put them on a tie with Orlando, and we were trying to figure out the fair play points because all the tiebreakers were there except fair play points. I think it came out eventually that Orlando had 9 yellow cards and the Galaxy had 5 at the time, and so the fair play points were going to the LA Galaxy, and so that was bumping them into that 3rd spot. So the Galaxy really thought that they were going to get to 4th, and I think everybody in the league thought the Galaxy were basically going to try to jump into that 4th spot. Not a lot of people had the LA Galaxy jumping into the 3rd spot, which is what ended up happening through all this. And the 4th goal pulled that away from just being fair play points and went into goal differential as well. So that was big. Nascimento with two goals in this. Just looking at the Galaxy's ability to create. Maya Yoshida got one. Joseph Paintsel, Nascimento too. By the way, Nascimento currently tied for 2nd for most goals in the tournament so far. Now, yes, he does sneak that one away from Sanabria, and now that's 2 sneaky goals. He stole one from Peck in the LAFC game, and he stole one from Sanabria in this game as well. But Nascimento is sort of coming alive. And by the way, I thought he played well. You're not going to find bad performances in this game, and most of that is because Santos Laguna was inept almost from the very beginning. It's like nobody watched the game where Joseph Paintsel just ran rampant down the left-hand side and behind everybody. Greg Vanney called the first half maybe the most creative in terms of what they were able to pull off, and maybe their best first half, just finding the appropriate through balls, finding the ball on the ground. This is stuff we were screaming for at the beginning of the season. And now we're seeing more of that. You're getting Joseph Paintsel playing in and running, in behind, not just getting the ball played to his feet and trying to create. Gabriel Peck at one time told Mauricio Cuevas to play inside so that way Peck could make a run on the outside. Immediately happened. Peck got a cross in. I think it ended up getting stopped right before it. But, these are the things that you wanted to see in this. Again, Santos Laguna, I believe, somebody told me this. I did not have a chance to check it, but I would believe it from seeing how they played. Santos Laguna is not a good team. They've finished, dead last in Liga MX, I think 2 or 3 times in the last 2 or 3 tournaments that have been played. So, that while I think they're more mid-table right now, and I think I have some standings coming up here at the end, while I think they're more mid-table now, for me, Santos Laguna look like they were a USL team out there. Certainly getting the red card in the first half and the 2 yellows that Lozano got. And then you had Sordo. Now, that was an interesting one. Halftime comes, the whistle blows. Their coach had already been yellow carded for yelling and screaming at people, and the referee. And I think there was even an argument. The one where they called the foul against Santos Laguna, whenever Joseph Paintsel went up for a defensive header right on the edge of the box, it looked like Paintsel undercut the player. And if you're really going to call that a foul, then it's probably a penalty kick. And if not, you have to sort of let that go. But the fact was, they didn't. Everybody was upset. There's yellow cards coming out. There's all sorts of stuff going on. Eventually, halftime blows. The refs are the coach for Santos Laguna storms out onto the field, going after the referee, and then you had Sordo who got in there. Now, we thought that the coach had been red carded because there was a scrum of people there, and we were trying to figure out everything that was going on. It wasn't until we got back from halftime, and we even went through the whole halftime in our little campfire down there at the bottom. The campfire ended, and we're like, okay, so they have a red card, and their coach is gone. And then we saw their coach back whenever we came back, and I'm like, what's going on? And eventually we found out that it was Sordo who actually got the red card. So that meant Santos Laguna wasn't just playing with 10 men, they were playing with 9 men. That's game over there. The Galaxy go on, and by the way, Maya Yoshida scores right before halftime. That makes it 3-0. That was also game over. The Galaxy get 1 more goal in the second half. That's 4-0. Empty the benches. There was an Eric Zavaleta sighting in there as well, and that's what it is. I think some people are maybe a little frustrated at times that the Galaxy didn't score more goals, and they could have probably scored 6 or 7 more, and I don't think that's a crazy number. They certainly had chances, little misses here and there, but the sheer number of chances swayed in their direction was almost through the charts crazy. So the Galaxy ended up with 64.5% possession, which is like kind to Santos Laguna. Sometimes I think they just stopped. They outshot Santos Laguna 24-4. Shots on goal 10 for the LA Galaxy, 0 for Santos Laguna. Total passes 680 to 275. The passing accuracy almost at 95% for the LA Galaxy. That's just through the roof. Total crosses, who cares? 8-2 in favor of the Galaxy. Offsides 5 for the LA Galaxy, 0 for Santos Laguna. Expected goals by the LA Galaxy, by the way, 5.2. They score 4. 5.2 is a pretty giant roundup whenever you think of it. So maybe they could have had two or more goals in there that really could have cemented what the LA Galaxy were trying to do here. But overall, this is the win. This is what you wanted it to happen, right? This is how it needed to happen, and the Galaxy do something that, quite honestly, wasn't that expected of them, which was to jump Orlando, and nobody thought that was going to happen. If we look at the FOTMob ratings, Mauricio Cuevas 9.2, I believe that's his highest in his career. The 9.2, 2 assists there for Cuevas, and just a wonderful, wonderful night. Not outside of one player, Garces was at a 6.9, which is the 7 would be in the green, but 6.9, and he actually got injured in this game. Greg Vanney says that he doesn't think it was. He doesn't think it was muscular or ligaments or anything like that. He thinks maybe it was just like, a little bit of like a twisted ankle or a bone-on-bone type thing where it hit. So maybe it's just a bruise more than anything. So Amiro Garces. But Amiro Garces has been really good in this tournament too, and I don't think we should shy away from that fact. So Amiro Garces is starting to turn into that MLS Cup guy who showed up the last 10, 12 games of the season last year and really sort of stride in. The LA Galaxy defense, 2 goals against TJ, 1 goal against Cruz Azul, and 0 goals against Santos Laguna. That's pretty good for what you're trying to do here. So all in all, everything that we look at, the LA Galaxy were stellar in this game. We look at the final standings in terms of Leagues Cup and where it sits. Your 4 Liga MX teams are Toluca, Pachuca, Tigres, and Puebla. There was a chance for Juarez to sneak in there if they would have won, I think, that penalty kick game against... were they playing against New York? I'm trying to remember who was... I think Chivas was playing against Cincinnati, and then New York was playing against Juarez, and Juarez could have advanced with a penalty kick win and did not. So that was something that we were sort of watching as that went in. But yeah, Juarez almost had a chance to get there, but not. It is Toluca, Pachuca, Tigres, and Puebla. And then on the MLS side, it's Seattle, Miami, LA Galaxy, and Orlando in those orders. Seattle finishes as the only team with 9 points in the entire tournament. Both Toluca and Miami both had 8 points. Pachuca had 7 points. The LA Galaxy had 7 points. Orlando had 7 points. And then Tigres and Puebla both finished with 6 points and were able to get in there. The goal differentials, big numbers. The team with the biggest goal differential was the Seattle Sounders with 9. They scored 11 goals for, and then 2 goals against, and that's a 9-goal differential. The LA Galaxy, 10 goals for, 3 goals against, and the 7-goal differential. By the way, I think some of the stats that I have in here changed a little bit, and I don't think Leagues Cup actually updated. So if we look at the matchups, we can pull up the matchups that are going to happen. It's Toluca and Orlando. It is Seattle versus Puebla. It is Miami versus Tigres, and it is the LA Galaxy versus Pachuca. The LA Galaxy, as we said and have notified you many, many times, have home field advantage throughout this tournament. They will host no matter what game it is, and that includes the final, and even if it's Miami. Not saying it's going to be, just saying if that happened, if it ended up being in that, I don't even know if that can happen. Look at the thing again. Yeah, even if they have Miami in the semifinals, right? The LA Galaxy would host that. So that's one of those things that we sort of watch there as it goes. So the Galaxy will continue to have home field all the way through the final. We'll watch to see how that plays out. We now know that the LA Galaxy will be playing against Pachuca coming up on August 20th at 8:45 p.m. Again, this is a doubleheader. Adam, $2 super chat, says, what do you think of the next doubleheader? I think it's ridiculous, just like I talked about the first one. Now, there are some logistics in here that are worth us discussing if you want to know a little bit of the behind the scenes. Certainly, it seemed like the LA Galaxy was going to play Toluca, and it was going to be that sort of 1-4 matchup. The Galaxy would have hosted that, and Toluca would not have hosted that. The Galaxy, I think, would have had a little bit better chance in terms of scheduling what they wanted to do. The fact that Toluca then played Orlando, now Toluca is hosting Orlando. So if it would have ended with the Galaxy in 4th, all the MLS sides would have ended up hosting all of the Liga MX sides, right? Just the way that the matchups lined up. Having said that, with the Galaxy jumping into third, that pushed Toluca against Orlando, and Toluca's actually ranked higher than Orlando in this. And because of that, Toluca gets to host. So Toluca sort of got to pick where they wanted to host from. And they had played in LA before. They were ready to play in LA again. They like the city. I think they like sort of the advantage and what they think they're going to get with fans. And so Toluca decided they also wanted to play, I guess, at Dignity Health Sports Park. That created another doubleheader. That created at least some scheduling problems, although I would certainly argue that not ones where you should sit there and say, oh, I know what we should do. We should push a game to 8:45 p.m., which will probably not kick off again until 8:55 p.m. Remember, 8:56 is the latest that we've had. I'm hoping, quite honestly, if we're going to go late, let's just go like 9:01 p.m. All right. But that sort of thing puts it into perspective of that all of a sudden now we have this doubleheader, and Leagues Cup thinks this is a good idea. The broadcast side of this can't possibly think that putting a game at 8:45 p.m. is a way to draw people in. I will ask this, though, and I don't know the answer to this. I have a feeling I have some hints of this answer, but I don't know where I've learned that from. But if you are trying to advertise this to Mexican fans, right, and Liga MX fans down in Mexico, for my friends who are from Mexico, friends who live in Mexico, who visit in Mexico, is Mexico more of a late night sort of place? And do we still think a 9:00 West Pacific Coast time start is still reasonable enough for Mexico fans to sort of be like, oh yeah, this makes sense and we're going to watch? To me, it feels like it targets nobody. You're not going to get West Coast people to watch. Anybody who's not on the western side of the United States is not going to watch this game, right? So anybody who's not on the western side of the United States is not going to watch this game and ends up getting too late. The Hammer, God bless him, and I don't mean to call him out, but he was trying to stay up for the game on Thursday night. He ended up falling asleep. He goes, I woke up, it was 4-0. He goes, I went to bed afterwards. He goes, fell asleep on the couch trying to watch, right? So why then? The doubleheader to me does not add anything. I don't think it means something. I don't think it adds to anything that's going on. So it's unreasonable to ask people, one, to stay up and watch those games on TV, especially if you're on the East Coast, and two, to ask people to show up. And then people are going to say, well, nobody showed up to the game. Well, yeah, the game's going to start at 9:00. Why? On a school night. By the way, school's starting. Trust me, this household knows it. School is starting soon. A lot of schools will go back, the middle of this month. And so you're talking, our family's going to be out there. By the way, I saw some great kids like wrapped up in blankets and like sleeping. His parents were carrying them. And great parenting, by the way. That's not a knock. I'm dead serious. I love that. Let your kids experience some of the stuff. It's fun. It's not that we can't do it. It's not that it's too late. And it's not just like old people complaining that, oh man, it's too late and you can't do it. It just makes no sense to hold a game at almost 9:00 at night. No sense at all. So, I think if Leagues Cup wants to be taken seriously and they want it to be more than just a money grab, which we know it's a money grab and everything else, but if they want the views, if they want their eyes on some of this stuff, then starting a game at 9:00 is not reasonable, right? So that has to change. Something there has to change. That being said, the LA Galaxy will play against Pachuca. Pachuca currently leading in the Apertura in Liga MX right now. Just 3 matches in. It's Pachuca and then Toluca, right? So the LA Galaxy also keeping their eyes on Toluca as all of this goes down. Also, they'll be facing Toluca in the Campeones Cup coming up in September. So again, a lot of Liga MX for the LA Galaxy coming up here very quickly. The LA Galaxy, should they advance past Pachuca, will play the winner of Seattle and Puebla. I like how they change these different brackets whenever I was looking at them earlier. That's always nice. Makes things a lot easier for me, right? Let's make sure that we have that on the show. Yeah. So Seattle and Puebla, they'll play the winner of that. The winner of that game then would go into the finals. Even if you do not make the finals, if you win the next game, even if you lose, so if you win the quarterfinal side, even if you lose the semifinals, there's a third place match. And that third place match, the winner of that will still go to CONCACAF Champions Cup. And that's ultimately what everybody is fighting for in this. One is try to win this tournament, try to win Leagues Cup, try to do that. It would be really big for the LA Galaxy to win this tournament. That being said, finish in the top 3 now 8 teams. So there are 8 teams, 5 teams will go away. 3 of those teams will end up going to CONCACAF Champions Cup. And that's what the LA Galaxy want for next year. All right. And if the standings sort of stay the way they are this year, I believe that there might even be a chance that the LA Galaxy won't make Leagues Cup for next year. So trying to make CONCACAF Champions Cup and all those sort of things are important to LA. Let's see. Let's go to the schedule coming up. And I have to note here that whenever I clip the schedule, they hadn't even announced the Leagues Cup game. So I will insert it in here with my voice. You now have the LA Galaxy getting ready to play Seattle on Sunday. Then it is away to Miami. That game will be interesting because both Miami and the LA Galaxy will have a Leagues Cup games coming up in the midweek. So who shows up for that game? Who plays in that game? Certainly an interesting one to watch, especially if you're the LA Galaxy traveling all the way across the country. I don't mean this disrespectfully, but Harbor Miller, Tucker Lepley, some of those guys might get to play against Miami, and I have a feeling some of the Miami players might not be playing in that game either if they're getting ready for Leagues Cup and sort of what's going to happen. But on the 20th, so between the 16th and the 23rd, it is August 20th, Wednesday night, the LA Galaxy will get to play in that Leagues Cup game. So that'll be inserted between the Miami game and the Colorado game that comes up on August 23rd. We talked about the LA Galaxy being at home for almost this entire month. Let's go over it again. Home against Cruz Azul, home against Santos Laguna, home against Seattle, away to Miami, then home in Leagues Cup to Pachuca, home to Colorado, and home to Dallas. We will be living at Dignity Hill Sports Park. We've already started. We will continue that as we go. So now looking into September, again, the Galaxy only have 10 games left. So watching all of this happen, plus any Leagues Cup games, I mean, the season is wrapping up quickly, and we're going to find that this is all going to end, I think, pretty rapidly. So that's sort of the Leagues Cup, look at everything. If you wanted to look at the rivalry scorecard between Liga MX and MLS, it was 28 wins for MLS to 26 wins for Liga MX, 104 goals scored by MLS to 78, and then 80 assists to 54 for Liga MX. Joseph Paintsel leads Leagues Cup right now in two categories, both shots and shots on target. So 16 total shots for Joseph Paintsel, 10 shots on target for him. We won't go over all the goals, but he got one that night, so very good. It is Mateus Nascimento, who sits in second spot, tied for second spot, basically, with three other players. Whenever you look at the total number of goals scored and who's leading that, you have two Liga MX players, Joao Fernandez and Angel Correa from Tigres. So from Toluca and Tigres, 4 goals each for them. And then you have Mateus Nascimento with 3. And that sort of sets off a whole bunch of other things in there as well. So that's what we see from the LA Galaxy in Leagues Cup. And as I said, I'm sort of uneasy with the seriousness of which the LA Galaxy must take this tournament just because of how the league has gone. But it seems to be something that is, it is going to be important this year and has to be. Somebody asked the question on Twitter basically and said, if the LA Galaxy win Leagues Cup, is this a great season for them? No, it's not going to be a great season. Is it going to be salvageable if they walk away with Leagues Cup? I mean, why not? Win Leagues Cup and then also have the wooden spoon. I mean, right now that sort of seems like how it's going. And with the importance of Leagues Cup, they're basically begging the LA Galaxy not to take the rest of the season seriously because Leagues Cup is one of their only chances to hoist that trophy, right? Again, I am very well aware of Campeones Cup. I think that as an exhibition game, that's all it is. It has no other standing. And so, if that's the only trophy the LA Galaxy walk away with this year, yay. But it's certainly not going to make anybody feel better about anything. It'll just be, one of those things. If they went away with, Campeones Cup and the wooden spoon's going to be more noticeable in any of the trophy cabinets. LA Galaxy and League Cup in 8 all-time Leagues Cup matches played under the current format, which began in 2023. The LA Galaxy hold a record of 3-3-2, 16 goals for, 12 goals against. In 6 all-time League Cup matches played at Dignity Health Sports Park, the Galaxy hold a record of 2-2-2, 13 goals for, and 8 goals against. Thursday's match marked the third meeting across all competitions between the Galaxy and Santos Laguna, with LA trailing the series 1-1-1. 4 goals for, 4 goals against. 2016 CONCACAF Champions League, the CCL, and it was the LA Galaxy and Santos Laguna. I believe the first leg was at home, Galaxy 0-0. Santos Laguna went down to Mexico and won that game 4-0. So this is now the other side of that. The Galaxy beating Santos Laguna 4-0 to even that. That's that 1-1-1 record in all those things. Through the 3 matches played in Phase 1 of the competition, the LA Galaxy finished with an unbeaten record of 2-0-1, 10 goals for, 3 goals against, 7 goal differential, recorded the second most goals, scored 10, and held the second best goal differential differential, +7 among all MLS and Liga MX East sides. The LA Galaxy qualified for the quarterfinals of the competition. So that's where we sit with Leagues Cup. We will be back to talk more about Leagues Cup whenever we get closer to the 20th. But as of right now, you will switch off Leagues Cup. Now it's back to MLS. And coming up this Sunday, we have the LA Galaxy's game against the Seattle Sounders. That game is a 7 p.m. start time on Sunday. Again, another Sunday game, the LA Galaxy in Seattle. I believe it's a 7:10 kickoff time, but also you have Fox Sports 1 and Fox Deportes, so that could kick a little bit later. I'll look whenever I get all the information, and I'll go ahead and tweet that out to give you guys an exact kickoff time. Sometime that could be closer to 7:25 whenever FS1 and Fox Deportes are involved, so we will watch that and figure out that one. But LA Galaxy, Seattle Sounders, last time the two teams met, of course, was whenever it was in the Western Conference Finals, and the LA Galaxy were able to defeat the Seattle Sounders. It's also the game in which Ricky Puig got hurt, right? So that's something to watch. Also happening at this game, and I prepare you to put your helmets on and those knee pads and elbow pads, put in the mouth guard, because we are going for another 2005 championship ring. Replica rings, the 2005 replica rings. There are going to be 5,000 replica rings. This is celebrating the 2005 championship. The 20-year celebration is coming up, so there will be players from that team coming. I think the only one I had confirmed, and I was trying to get a list before the podcast, and I forgot to bug somebody to get me that. But the only one that I think is for sure coming that I know of is Todd Donovan. But there's 5,000 replica rings. Now, I'm going to give you the process by which the replica rings will be given out. Vouchers will be distributed inside Dignity Health Sports Park at the tennis stadium. You're not going to get them at the gate. You're not going to get them at the ticket booths. You're going to walk through there and you're going to go on. For premium and season ticket members, you get in at 5 p.m. For everybody else, you get in at 5:30 p.m. All right. So there's a significant advantage for the season ticket members. Let's hope that that holds up and that doesn't change. Okay. There are 5,000 of these rings. Once you get inside the stadium, you're going to make your way to the tennis stadium. When you make your way to the tennis stadium, on either side, there's going to be voucher distributions. You're going to grab your voucher, and then, from what I can tell, certainly by the map, you're going to walk immediately to the giveaway pickup, turn in that voucher, get your ring, and you can walk back out. Now, for some reason, if you grab that voucher and you want to walk away, you have until the whistle blows to start the second half to make sure that you pick up your giveaway. There are only 5,000 of these. Would I like that there would be 20,000 of them? Absolutely. Always think more is better, especially whenever it comes to the replica rings, and these are ones that are going to be, I think, well coveted. But please try to stay patient out there. Understand the process. All right, so that's how that process works. You're not getting the voucher at the ticket. You are getting the voucher once you go inside. Okay, good. Glad we had that talk. LA Galaxy and Seattle, again, talking about this game. These are two teams. I mean, hysterically, you look at the possession, they're tied. Their average possession for this year is 53.5%, both of them. Seattle, more shots than the LA Galaxy, 13.8. Shots on goal a little bit higher for Seattle at 5. Seattle is a team right now that seems to be hinting at the fact that they might want to be an MLS Cup winner this year. They are a good team. They play well. They put a lot of heart and soul into the Leagues Cup, and were successful in doing that. We can go back and look at the last game that they played. Actually, was against Tijuana. They won that game 2-1. This secured their place as the only MLS team with 3 wins in the tournament. These are names whether it's Christian Roldan. The big one up top is De Rosario, which is Dwayne De Rosario's kid, is playing up top. If you haven't watched him play, he's exciting to watch. This is a Seattle team that is, as Greg Vanney called them in the press conference, a mature team, and they have been. Every team under Brian Schmetzer with Seattle has been sort of these mature teams. They know how to play. They know how to compete. One sort of knock against them right now is that Albert Rusnak, who is absolutely one of their top players playing in the middle, got injured in this last game and had to come out. So now we have to sort of watch to see what his status is, but I would expect that he's not going to play. Rusnak has an average of 7.5 and Christian Roldan 7.6 in there. Those you're talking about two of the best players that Seattle have. Vargas is a great player there as well. So watching how these guys play and sort of where they're put in, I will say this, and it's a weird time to be playing this game. Seattle put a lot into their Leagues Cup. The Galaxy put a lot into their Leagues Cup. I'm not expecting that these are heavily rotated lineups, both of them. Both of them are heavily rotated lineups. You have to get out of this week. We know it's a short week. This is basically the fourth game, inside of the last 2 weeks. That makes it like sort of the hardest game to do. I don't know what the LA Galaxy are going to have in store, and I certainly think that, whenever you talk about conditioning and the conditioning coaches, this is where you get to see which guys recovered and which guys didn't. Maybe the guys who are a little bit longer in the tooth, maybe they need a little bit more of a rest. You're looking at guys like Diego Fagundes, sorry Diego, Marco Royce, sorry Marco, a little bit older and a lot of miles on their legs. That's where you worry about, what's going to happen on Sunday, and so I would expect that maybe that doesn't happen. Watch guys who didn't get to play as much. Maybe Ferrante plays a little bit more. Maybe Sanabria plays a little bit more. Edwin Cerrillo's played like every minute of every game and just continues to like run his butt off out there. Eventually, I have to imagine he gets a little bit of a break. So that's in there. If the younger guys are probably going to play more, so how much of a rotated lineup do you expect? Like Yamane probably starts this game, right? Because it's been Cuevas who's been playing a whole bunch, and Cuevas can come off the bench for him if you need to. Maybe Nelson starts at left back instead of Aude because, again, you're trying to limit the miles that you're putting on everybody's legs, and you're going to play this game, and then you have a break. You're going to go to Miami, and then you have Leagues Cup again. So you're trying to recover in between these games. That's what this game is going to be. It's going to be a recovery game. I don't know how much importance and emphasis the LA Galaxy need to put on league play anymore. I certainly think that they like the momentum they're playing with, and talking to Mauricio Cuevas or Maya Yoshida, or any of the guys who sort of came through the mix zone, party time. Having done any of that, talking with those guys, I think they like the momentum, but there's clearly tired legs out there. So if you're somebody who likes to bet on Major League Soccer, don't bet on this game because you don't even know who's going to play in this game, right? If we go to D ratings and sort of look at who's favored in all this, Seattle is slightly behind. Seattle wins at 32.4%, and the Galaxy wins at 39.9%. Whenever you take a team and they get almost 60% of the possible outcomes, from the road side of things, right? So 32% and 27%. So, trying to gather into that almost 60. If you can do that, I think that really they're trying to tell you the Seattle Sounders are probably the better team here. Are they favored to win? No, but it's not by much. The Galaxy, in terms of their expected goals, has jumped up because of all the scoring that they've been doing, even in league and everything else. The Galaxy have sort of started to come around and right the ship a little bit. So we'll watch that. If you look at the money lines, Seattle's plus 185, the Galaxy plus 130, a draw plus 275. So they seem to think there's going to be a result in this game. Honestly, if you had to take like money, if you had to bet something, I would put it on Seattle on this, just because I think that's where I feel like there's a value in the plus 185. Quite honestly, that was it. But looking all the way from plus 170, Westgate at plus 185, Station. There's a bunch of people who aren't even taking bets on this game. But anyway, that's sort of where we sit with that. So that's the Seattle game that's coming up. And again, I think there's a lot here. I think there's a lot to discuss and try to figure out whenever it comes to what you're doing in the league. And I think the Galaxy's intentions will not be decided this weekend because I think that there is too much incentive to try to rotate for both teams coming out of Leagues Cup. So I don't think you're going to know for sure what the Galaxy think of the last 10 games. Greg was very careful to say we're taking it one game at a time and only one game at a time. And that's all you can sort of do. I feel like there is more planning involved in that. And I understand the one game at a time. I also understand that if you actually managed and coached like that you would run into problems. If there is no tomorrow that you're worried about, then that's one thing, but there is. And so you sort of have to manage those expectations as you go. So, just looking at what the LA Galaxy are doing, this is the thing. If you put a lot of stock in Leagues Cup and you say that the Galaxy played some decent teams, I think Tijuana's okay. I think that Santos Laguna is horrible, and I think Cruz Azul is one of the better teams in Liga MX. Whether or not that shows out all the time, it probably doesn't. Cruz Azul sits in 5th right now. It's so early in their season; it's kind of hard to be like, oh yeah, this. It feels like the table has shaken itself out. But Santos in an 11th spot, is pretty high for them right now. So they just haven't played well. So if you are taking seriously what the LA Galaxy did, then them being one of the top 4 teams out of the 18 MLS teams shows that maybe, if you want to take the optimistic side of things, that the LA Galaxy are better than what we saw through the first, 2/3 of the season. Maybe not quite that much, but close. And it's something certainly I've argued about, so that fits my narrative. So, hey, why not? I'll go with that. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if Liga MX's teams were taking this tournament seriously, or because they're so new in the season, they're just not 100% into it. And so I don't think you can make that decision. But I will say that watching the LA Galaxy play, even against Cruz Azul, I said, this is a team that's better than what they've been playing with. I think Nascimento has been an excellent addition to sort of what this team has needed, and he's starting to play the part for real. He may get some nicked in goals where he sort of accidentally gets in the way of some of these and they bounce off his foot and go into the goal. But he's able to help create, and he's able to do some things. Finding Cuevas, finding him, is sort of the goals I expect to see from Nascimento in the 9. And I think that not having somebody who was putting those balls in hurt the LA Galaxy. The fact that the Galaxy are finding seams and able to pass the ball forward, playing through balls, getting Peck and Paintsel running with the ball and not just at their feet all the time, creating more and more chances. It seems to be that the creativity has been upped as well. Marco Royce playing through balls, Diego Fagundes playing through balls. So there's some things there. I also think that, the defense hasn't been the big bad wolf that it has been at the beginning. And I think you have to credit, Mayashida and Zonka and Amiro Garces, especially Garces, for doing that. Also think you got to put in Aude as a solution to some of the issues that we saw out there. And by the way, still a big John Nelson fan. But I do think that for a team that was struggling offensively, getting Aude in this. So like grouping this back into, what we've seen recently from the LA Galaxy, I think you can be optimistic about it. I just don't know. I just don't think that means anything in the league. And so, again, I don't think you're going to understand the LA Galaxy's focus on league or not league this weekend, because I think everybody rotates this weekend, especially Seattle and LA. Maybe some other teams that were already eliminated that didn't need to play the guys, like that type of thing. You don't have to worry about it. But for me, Sunday is more of a can you outlast the other team, and especially watch the second half. Let's see if there's legs still under guys in the second half, or whether this game just dies. This to me screams like 1-1 draw. And having said that, the odds are sort of saying that, that somebody's going to win this game. And so maybe that's the correct answer. But I can understand this not being the prettiest or best dedicated like soccer in terms of MLS coming up on Sunday. So that's sort of where I have that, in everything that the LA Galaxy do. There's still transfer windows open. We'll see where that goes in. Again, I don't want you to think that I'm advocating for Mauricio Cuevas to get traded. I don't think that's the thing. I would like him to get played. I would like to see him continue to get some starts and get some more playing time. But if you're trying to generate revenue and and somebody comes knocking and they want Mauricio Cuevas, that's a piece that is worth some money. So certainly it is. And stop just trying to give away all the guys you don't want anymore. That's not how losing guys works. That's why, Jorgen Shelvik was on the team for 14 years, whatever, and still getting paid. Let's see. Anything else? I think that's where we got. LA Galaxy playing Seattle coming up. Again, get there early because you do have a chance of those replica rings, especially if you're a season ticket member. There are dedicated season ticket member entrances. So use those. Try to get in a half an hour early. I understand that line is going to be long. Godspeed for all of you. Please take your time. Be nice to everybody that you see, whether there's people around you or whether they work for the stadium. Be nice. And we'll all get it through it together. So LA Galaxy and Seattle Sounders coming up at 7 o'clock. Again, I believe it's going to be about a 7:10 or a 7:25 kickoff time, especially with FS1 and Fox Deportes. So be prepared for that. But it's the LA Galaxy in Seattle at Dignity Health Sports Park on Sunday. And then we actually get back to a regular podcast schedule. So we'll do Monday and Thursday next week. What do you know? It'll be great. It'll be wonderful. It'll be fun. And then the Leagues Cup game, because it's on a Wednesday, doesn't screw up our schedule either. So yay, we are almost there, boys and girls. We're getting there. It was great seeing everybody. Thank you for coming out and saying hi. I always appreciate it. Please don't ever be shy about saying hi. Just yell out my name, whether that's Josh or Pato. I answer to both, and I am happy to stop and say hi. It really does mean a lot to me. When I was in the line for Kathy's cookies, somebody came up and said hi to me. It was great. I was waiting for my cookies anyway, so I'm happy to talk anything LA Galaxy, and It's always a good time. Thank you for being here on a Friday night. Again, there is no good reason on God's green earth that we should all be watching this show or doing this show on a Friday night. In the summertime, we should be out enjoying and having a good time and getting to bed at a reasonable hour, which is something I hope MLS will once again consider whenever they do this next year. All right. Anything else? No, that's it. Let's get out of here. If you're looking for me on any of the social media, it is, of course, at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com. We certainly appreciate all your support over there. You can go to SoundCloud, iTunes. Is Stitcher even a thing anymore? At one point, I was like, oh, yeah, use that for sure. No. So that's there. Any of the Spotify, that type of thing. Corner of the Galaxy, just type it in. You can follow us. And, of course, like and subscribe to videos on YouTube. That certainly helps us out and keeps us going, all right? Appreciate all of you hanging in there on a Friday night. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Sunday. Little sneak preview. I am heading out to the LA Galaxy Unified Teams practice on Saturday, and I am super pumped about that. So hopefully I'll have some stuff to share with you guys on Monday. All right, LA Galaxy, Seattle Sounders coming up on Sunday, 7 p.m. Kickoff a little after that, 7:25 or so is what our guess is. All right, for everybody who's, again, just a solo show, just trying to get things done, for the Hammer, for Sophie, for Alex, for anybody, for the Kevin the Panda Baxter, for all those guys, we hope you're having a wonderful weekend. We will see you soon. You've been listening to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.